but just for basic context, we're talking about eliminating, at least in part, single-use or disposable food containers and cups that you would receive from a restaurant or coffee shop if you're ordering to go, takeout, or taking leftovers. So why reuse? The problem is incredibly overwhelming, but I do want to highlight some very important statistics so we can really understand the gravity of the situation. I'm going to read these facts aloud because I think it's important that we visually see this information and hear it as well. 1 trillion pieces of single-use food containers and foodware are disposed of every year in the US. Takeout containers and coffee cups are used for a matter of minutes and then get thrown away to exist on our planet for likely thousands of years. 8,000 disposable Starbucks coffee cups are used every minute. At our current rate, by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Every day, Americans use 500 million plastic straws. Every minute, the equivalent of a garbage truck full of plastic enters the ocean. And 90% of seabirds, though likely more, have plastic in their stomach, and we now have a new disease due to that. What do we do with this information? It is entirely overwhelming. We have to start at the individual level. This is not going to be solved overnight. It's going to take time and individual action. I know it feels like what we do as individuals doesn't matter when we're talking about something of this scope, but it absolutely does. This is how change happens. Moreover, this problem does not exist because one or a few people use a huge ton of plastic. This problem exists because many, many, many individuals use some plastic. No one person can do everything, but everyone can do something. Don't do nothing just because you can't do everything. Here we have a pie chart showing different markets for plastic. The largest market for plastic is in packaging. In many ways, this is entirely unnecessary, as there are absolutely alternatives. And what's more, plastic packaging is not only the biggest market for plastic, but it's the category with the shortest lifespan. Think about what you get at the store, you come home, unwrap it, throw the plastic away instantly. Or compare that to something like maybe a plastic cabinet that you have that you're gonna have for decades. Does it fall into the plastic packaging category? This is a picture from our plastic collection back in October. For those of you who don't know about this, please take a brochure before you leave. But the plastic project started in 2021, offering McMinnville a way to recycle plastic that can't go in curbside recycling. Now we do want to be clear about this. This is not a fault of Recology that they cannot accept this, or that the rules of plastic recycling are so difficult to understand. Plastic contains so many variations of chemicals, it is a nightmare to recycle. It really wasn't a material intended to be recycled at all when it was invented. So this is a photo taken from our collection, and this is only people saving for 4 months. So we had our collections every 4 months, and now we'll be having them every 3 months. It's hard to tell in this photo exactly how many there are, but it's a lot of containers. This is one of our top items we see at collections, but this has a very simple solution. So it was the perfect next step in tackling our plastic problem here in McMinnville. And that's why we're here today. I would like to take a moment to consider what other single-use options are out there. But first of all, no matter the material, recycling requires energy. You hear the phrase reduce, reuse, recycle. Recycle is the last option if you can't reduce or reuse. Second, as we just talked about, plastic takeout containers cannot be recycled in curbside recycling, but nor can most other takeout we do not have here. So that means that most compostables are going to end up in a landfill, and due to the fact that they are plant and food-based, means that they are going to emit methane when piled in a landfill due to the lack of oxygen in this type of environment. Methane has over 80 times the warming potential as CO2 as a greenhouse gas. Additionally, most are lined with PFAS, a forever chemical that contaminates the compost. And then most paper containers, including disposable cups that you would get at your coffee shop, have a plastic lining, and most of those are PFAS as well. So this not only makes them not recyclable, but also dangerous as a container for food. But all in all, no matter the material, single use is not sustainable. So I do want to take a few minutes to now talk about the life cycle of plastic. In this day and age, we are so removed from where our food and our purchased items come from. Our consumption tends to be taken for granted without a second thought to where it came from, how it was produced, how many miles it traveled to get here, was it ethically made, what happens to it after its use, really? We just don't know this information by and large, and many of us don't tend to think about it on a daily basis. So we are here talking about a replacement for all single-use food containers, but until recently, plastic specifically has gone largely ignored as a material. And so because the majority of takeout containers and cups are plastic or plastic lined, let's consider its implications. Where does plastic come from? Petroleum. So step one in getting our plastic, we need to drill, we need to frack in order to create plastic. This process, this part of the process, releases a huge array of toxic substances into the air and water. At this stage in the process, there are known human health impacts. Causes cancer, reproductive and developmental toxicity, impairment of the immune system, and much more. Okay, step two, we need to refine the oil into creating plastic resins. This stage of the process also releases carcinogens and other highly toxic substances into the air. And at this stage, causes cancer, genetic and birth problems, reproductive and developmental problems, impairment of the nervous system, and much more. Industry workers and innocent communities that live nearby are at great risk for these problems and diseases. Stage three, this is the stage we see and associate with when we think of plastic. However, there are very serious harms at this stage as well, and this affects every consumer because we are exposed in huge quantities to both microplastics and toxic chemicals. Microplastics occur when plastic degrades, breaking into smaller pieces. This plastic doesn't disappear. It just breaks into smaller and smaller particles until we can't see it anymore. This heat increases the speed at which plastic breaks into these smaller particles. And so this becomes incredibly toxic if we put hot food, say takeout, into plastic or a plastic-lined container. Microplastics are found everywhere at this point, all throughout the human body and in every corner of the planet, including places that humans do not go, and very deep in the ocean. Microplastics have been found in human blood, saliva, the brain, breast milk, the placenta, and in newborn feces. This is devastating. Microplastics can cause cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic inflammation, autoimmune conditions, neurodegenerative diseases, and stroke. Are we getting tired of this list? The most common type of microplastic found in the human body comes from the plastic found in food packaging, food containers, and disposable cups and bottles. This last fact is one big motive for us leading this reuse program. 1 through 7 with a little triangle around them. Between those numbers, at least, that we know of, 16,000 chemicals are used in the making of those 7 different variations of plastic. Most of these chemicals do not have health hazard information. I cannot stress that enough. The chemicals we do have hazard information for, we already know causes cancer, developmental problems, hormone and endocrine disruptors, fertility issues and birth defects, and have been even linked to heart attacks and strokes.
Can I ask about the 16,000 chemicals? Is that just overall, 1 through 7 might have 100 or 200? That's just the total amount that might.
So each, the numbers 1 through 7 are basically the classifications of chemical composition for each of those numbers.
Okay.
So 16,000 total.
Okay, thanks.
Someone said to me the other day, you know how cigarette packaging has the warning label on it? Plastic cups and food containers should have it too.
Yes.
So we're done with our plastic. Now what do we do with it? Okay, so let's say we're going to throw it away and it's going to get incinerated. All of those chemicals are just going to go right back into the air, the water, and the soil. And again, those workers and nearby communities are at great risk, including ingesting food that is grown in this polluted environment. Let's say we're going to recycle the plastic. This is very ineffective. We already talked a little bit about this, but by and large it results in downcycling, which means that it's going to end up as a lesser product than what it was before. And we need to add virgin plastic to the recycled plastic to maintain its integrity in some form. This is so ineffective. Only 2% of plastic is effectively recycled. This is not the answer. So where else does plastic go? Well, we all know about the ginormous island in the ocean, littering beaches, in landfills, and so sadly consumed by animals in sea life. At every stage of its life cycle, plastic poses distinct and serious risks to human health, all living creatures, and to our beautiful planet that sustains us. And it is absolutely a contributor to climate change. Every piece of plastic that has ever been created still exists today. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. I'm going to read it again. Every piece of plastic that has ever been created still exists today.
Can you explain that a little more?
It doesn't degrade. It doesn't go away.
It
just continues to,
go.
It just breaks into those smaller and smaller particles if it is degrading, but it still exists.
And the light bulb just went on. Yeah.
And plastic production is currently set to quadruple by 2050. We're just going to be swimming in plastic everywhere. On the next slide, I'm going to show a picture. If you are an empath, please close your eyes now until we're on to the next slide. This stuff is really hard for me to see, but I feel like I need to show something like this and ask the question, is it worth it?
Oh yeah, that. Oregon State University researchers, it's been probably 10 years ago, couldn't figure out for a while why they were finding these microscopic bits of plastic in whales. And then they realized that the whales were trying to eat bottles that the cruise ships were dumping overboard. Yeah.
Okay, we gotta move on.
Enough said.
Can't do it. Okay. We gotta move on to a solution here. We need a way forward. We can't keep living like this and continuing to create a problem that is so awful in every way. So here's one solution that honestly requires such little effort, and that is reuse. So our vision as we started this program was to eliminate as many plastic and single-use food containers as we can in McMinnville and beyond through a community-wide reuse program. The success of this program does not require difficult action, but it does take intention and commitment from both restaurants and consumers. So we chose to go with a specific company called Forever Ware for a couple of reasons. One is because Forever Ware offers both cups and food containers. And another is because we wanted a uniform system that could be used throughout the town. So these containers are stainless steel with a silicone lid. So they're PFAS-free, plastic-free, and their cups are double-walled, so your hot drinks stay hot and your cold drinks stay cool. Here's how it works. You go into a restaurant, you borrow a container with a $5 refundable deposit. As I said at the beginning, this can be used for takeout, if you have leftovers, if you're getting a cup of coffee, anything you can think of. When you return your container to any participating restaurant, you receive your deposit back. So if you're going back to the restaurant for another cup of coffee or another meal, you can easily just exchange it for a clean container. And then once you return it, the restaurant will clean and sanitize it, just like they do for their regular dishware, and then they'll put it back in circulation. Some extra details that you may want to know about it. If you have not participated in this program yet, the first time you'll go in and you'll request, or perhaps the employee will ask you if you want to use a reusable Forever Ware container. And they'll need your name and your phone number. That will be put into the system and you will have an account. So you're not providing a credit card, you're not putting any money to have an account, but your name is in there. They'll have your name pulled up, and on the bottom of the containers is a unique QR code, and so they scan it, and so it now gets attached to you, and so you're basically checking it out like a book at a library. Before you return your container, you don't need to wash it. Just give it a quick rinse and to eliminate returning it with any gross old food and drink residue. Be considerate. Don't want to give them something nasty. There is currently no timeline to return it. That could change if we have an issue, but at this point it's been going great and we haven't needed to implement that. When you return your container, your deposit will automatically get returned to you as a credit applied to your account, so that when they pull up your name, it'll show that you have a $5 credit, or if you've gotten multiple containers, you might have $10 credit, and they'll just use that to check out another container. This is because your credit card information is not being saved or stored, so they can't just put it back on your credit card. You can also choose to get that money back, though, into your bank account or onto your card if you go online to the Forever Ware refund webpage and provide your information. And it's just a couple steps and it takes maybe 2 minutes, so it's really quick and easy. But it is an extra step because this is separate from the restaurant.
Can you pay cash? Can you pay $5 cash?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a triple win for the environment, for public health, and it provides savings for the restaurants. And the more consumers utilize this program, the more the restaurants are saving, which is a great way to support our wonderful local restaurants. So we have 2 initial participating restaurants, Alchemist Jam and Local Flow. Alchemist Jam started the program the end of November, and Local Flow joined early January. But, drum roll please, we have a 3rd restaurant coming! Yay! So they aren't even open yet. So they're opening likely the end of this month, end of March, early April. This is Good Food Mac. If you haven't seen them, they're on 3rd Street. They are down at the end across the street from Beerly Brewing in the same little courtyard where Bad Name Chocolates and Hawaii 503 is. So Good Food is going to be another gluten-free restaurant, but also gut-friendly, clean ingredients, no processed food. Really exciting. And she is going to be offering a wide variety of soups, salads, deli salads, and tasty sweets. Please support her and use this program when you go. What was so cool was when I talked with her, she had actually wanted to use reusables when she was formulating the plan to start her restaurant, and that was already kind of in her own mind. She wanted to do that. And she didn't realize that it was already happening, and so once she found out that it was already in existence in McMinnville, she jumped right on board and is very thrilled about it. There are many successful examples throughout the US and internationally. We're just getting started here, but there are countless success stories, and this is quickly taking off in the US and elsewhere. 27 countries have banned single-use plastic in some capacity. Love it. Farmers markets are starting to use reusable containers. There is, in my research, I found one farmers market in Toronto, which is entirely single-use free and plastic free. And if you are going to eat at the farmers market, you need to either bring your own container, bring your own bag, or use the reusables that they have there. And I hope that we can get there here. The Pickathon Music Festival in Happy Valley. This is a very cool example that is just down the road from us. In 2010, Pickathon Music Festival became the first major American music festival to get rid of plastic entirely. 2010, way ahead of the game. They do this through stainless steel beer cups and reusable water bottles with refill stations. After the first year, they had 40% less trash just due to eliminating plastic. That wasn't even good enough for them. So the second year, they said, let's eliminate all single-use food dishes and utensils. And they did, and they became the first major American music festival to do that as well in 2011. Pretty cool. This year, many DEQ grants went out to financially support reuse projects like this one all across the state of Oregon. Really cool. It is popping up everywhere. In Chicago, there's a cafe called Spoken Cafe, and they use 100% Forever Ware reusables. They love it. Their customers love it. No trash. Upstream studies. Upstream is a big organization entirely devoted to reuse. If you have a moment, look up this website. It's pretty neat and very positive to look through that. But they have done a lot of studies regarding reuse, and they have found that reuse wins every time. So whether we're talking about the environment, reuse wins. It only needs a few, generally it only needs a few times in circulation before it surpasses any other method. It wins in the economic sector, so it is going to save the restaurants money every time. And absolutely it's going to win for the public health as long as we are not using reusable plastic. So there are reuse programs out there that are using reusable plastic containers. And we already discussed all of those issues, but if we are talking about something that's not plastic, then reuse is gonna win in that capacity. This is very possible. This is very possible. So our plans for the future, and also how you can help. So we plan and hope to continue to grow and expand throughout restaurants all throughout McMinnville. We are really looking to create a community program where reuse is a common thing here in Mac. Perhaps we can even lead the way to eliminate all single-use plastic. Lofty goal, I know, I'm idealistic, but let's choose to live the way we know we should. Exciting news, this summer at our farmers market, we will have reusable containers.
Oh.
So be on the lookout, spread the word. Very, very excited about it. We also have plans to expand to other venues in town, such as retirement communities or other events. And of course, we don't want to just stop in McMinnville, but we want to expand to other restaurants in Yamhill County as well. We have a great couple who is working on plastic-free amity, so definitely want to expand those borders. But really what we're talking about here at a just baseline, we're talking about a shift in mentality away from single use and the current throwaway culture that is so strong in the US. Really, we need to stop treating the earth as a garbage can. It cannot sustain this, and nor can we. We need to move away from convenience to awareness and intentionality. And I put convenience in quotations because this is simply a perceived convenience. In reality, this is a devastating inconvenience for our health, for animals, and for our planet. So what can you do? First, utilize the program where it already exists. So even if you are not a frequent customer of Alchemist Jam, Local Flow, and of course you'll have to be a new customer at Good Food, but even if you don't frequent those places, go in and support them, use the program. The more that it is being used and the more positive energy that is going through that, the more it's going to grow in McMinnville and the more other restaurants will want to participate. And then ask restaurants that you do frequent and the owner if they are participating in the restaurant reusable program. Even if you know they're not, gets the conversation going. They can ask about it. You can let them know that you care about this issue. Encourage them to participate. Leave cards for the owner when you eat out with your name signed. We made up some cards that have a place for you to sign on the front and then facts on the back. We have 3 facts and different variety of facts, several different cards. And this is information for the consumer and it's information for the restaurant and the owner. We also have on our Zero Waste McMinnville website, there's a place where you can download the card and print your own copies as well. If your favorite restaurant is not participating yet, choose to bring your own containers from home, not plastic, and ask them to fill it for takeout, or you can fill it yourself for leftovers. The takeout piece became legal actually this last summer, so it is legal for you to bring in your own container and ask them to fill it for takeout. They don't have to say yes if they feel nervous about it, but it is legal for them to do it. They're not going to get in trouble.
Why would they say no? You're saving them a container. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
They might think that it's unsanitary.
Or that it's you and you're taking your food.
Yeah.
As long as
Hopefully they don't say no.
from it.
Hopefully they don't say no. But
Yeah.
I just had,
Okay.
know that that's a possibility and be considerate with their answer. But also let them know. Let them know that this is legal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay attention to where you see and use single-use items and packaging and see if you can reduce these items from your daily life. Or maybe you can find it in another type of packaging, such as shampoo bars or toothpaste tabs, things that don't require plastic. Or maybe you can make your own. There are many options. We do need to be creative sometimes, but really try to think about it as much as you can. Say no to plastic. Say no to single use. All right, I'm sure there are questions about the program.
So
Yes.
I was just gonna say, the grocery stores now, if you take in like a silicone bag or something, like if you're eating fish or shrimp or something like that, they will, and before they would not, they were really balking at it, but
Yeah.
I found they're doing that more and more, so you don't have to get one of those little plastic bags and.
Great to know.
The only
Thank you for
thing that
sharing.
they still do, though, they grab that piece of plastic to pick it up and.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at least it's going home in a reusable thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
You're a very natural public speaker.
Thanks.
So thank you. Question, you mentioned Alchemist Jam and Local Flow as being partners. Presumably there have been conversations with other restaurants in town as well.
Yes.
So my question is, has any restaurant given you a reasonable amount of pushback about why they wouldn't want to do this?
Oh, that's a great question. I almost talked about it and I felt like I was going too long. So when we first started getting this project going, myself and my partner in this project, Susan, we went down the street, talked to restaurants, talked to owners, and their main concern was that customers wouldn't use it.
Mhm.
And they felt that,
Really?
yeah, they felt that this is such a big culture shift that they would be more willing to do it if they did it as a group. But we couldn't get a group to agree together, so we had brave instigators.
Somebody's gotta start.
Somebody's got to start. Yep, and that's exactly how it gets going. Is someone is brave, and we've got the first takers, and then
So were they concerned about some upfront costs to implement the system, or?
it's pretty. Yes, it's slight, and can I share this, Ramsey?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Zero Waste McMinnville. So Zero Waste McMinnville is actually paying those upfront costs for the first 5 restaurants. So.
Only 5? Come on, Ramsey.
Oh
Slow
no,
down.
it's really. I
So
think-
greedy.
I think that the restaurants need to have stake in it because I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
I think that they need to feel like, okay, I have put money into this. I want it to be successful. It needs to be successful because I put money into it. So I think that 5 is a good number to get us going.
Well, make it be half so you support 10.
Well, and also, we need to prove it, so this is. proof.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you do the numbers and you pay the upfront cost, then
Yeah.
you do hit 0 and then you're making, saving money.
Right.
So it's not,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but we needed to incentivize it, for sure.
Yeah.
But it needs to work on its own.
Yeah, and the thing is, so I've talked with a lot of people, done various presentations, and overwhelmingly, the public has been so excited about this. I really haven't gotten any negative feedback about this program. People are like jumping out of their shoes excited. And the thing is though, people need to know about it too. So what I have found, and we're trying to educate the restaurants, is the employees who may not really care one way or the other, if they're not sharing it with customers and the customers don't know about it yet because this is so new, then it's not gonna be used. So that's another battle we're kind of fighting, and one of the reasons that we want to do this presentation, we want to get this word out there. And so something else that you can do too is just share this with people and let them know that this is happening, and the more we support those who are currently utilizing it, the more that more places are gonna use it, yeah.
What does it take for a restaurant to join? It sounds like they need a commercial dishwasher probably. Because it works for the
Yes.
farmer's market too.
Yeah, a commercial dishwasher or a 3-compartment sink. Yeah,
Wash, rinse, sanitize.
yeah, that's pretty much all
And some sort of computer
they
system.
need.
Oh, yeah,
She sends it.
Why don't you describe the actual, what you get as a restaurant?
Yeah,
With how-
so when you sign up, so there's an initiation fee, it's not that much, but it pays for a phone, which becomes the scanner. So she sends that your way, and the restaurant has the device to scan, and then you pay for the containers, and that's really it. It's pretty simple, and then
There's a maintenance fee, like,
there is a monthly, $25 maintenance fee, yeah.
but still on top of all this, and then there's a 5 cents per stand.
5 cents per use, yeah. So, but that is compared to, so most single-use containers cost between 20 and 40 cents. So this is cheaper. Yeah, so even though they're paying the 5 cents per use, they would otherwise be paying maybe 20, 30, 40 cents for something else. Yeah.
In communities that have high rates of tourism, how do you get buy-in from restaurants? Because they're only there for a day.
Yeah.
To participate in it. And then the other question is, average restaurant, how many cups would they start off with? And do you have a return rate? So I'm sure there's a loss
Yeah.
rate on each of those too, where you're not gonna get those cups coming back for whatever reason, they get lost, they get damaged, whatever.
Yeah, okay, I've already forgotten your first question. So you're gonna have to walk me through this. What was your first question again?
Tourism.
Oh yeah, that was another pushback that I did get, and interestingly, so So I do have some ideas on how to make that work, in the sense that if we can get some of the higher end hotels that are downtown or near downtown to actually participate in this program as well, or give their,
Yes.
their guests, thank you, I was gonna say customers with us,
Yes.
their guests, a way to participate and a way for them to drop off containers before they leave.
Well, then they get their money back.
And
right?
then,
If
yeah,
they're-
so we
if
could
they're
do,
turning it in and they're not gonna reuse, they
Yeah.
get their $5 back.
yep,
That's the selling point.
totally, yeah. So there's that piece, but interestingly, so when Alchemist Jam opened, myself and another individual set up a table out front so that we could tell customers about it, because this is brand new. And probably half of their customers that day were tourists or from out of town, it was the weekend after Thanksgiving, but I do think they get a lot of tourists too. And I couldn't get one person to do it, and I would tell them when they went in, I would say, if you're gonna be here for an hour and finish your coffee, then just drop it back off.
I get your money back.
Yeah, and I had one woman who and she sat out on a table and ate with her family, and then she looked at me like so shamefully because she finished while she was sitting there and then threw her container away. But it was so funny to me because, I mean, I know I'm not the average Joe, but if I were a tourist and going somewhere, I would want to participate in.
And some of the
So-
hotels might buy the system, provide it to their
Right.
clientele, and so please leave this in your room.
Right.
There you go.
So it's only $5, but so,
Right.
a room ticket now is hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So they would get their money back and just work it in the process. It's part of this is a Forever Ware town. When you go to have coffee,
Yeah.
please take one of our complimentary cups and leave it in your room.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they can even brand it.
They could. You had another question that I forgot.
About how many cups an average restaurant would need to order to get started,
Mm.
and then what the loss rate is, because I'm sure people aren't returning them all the time.
Yeah, so it really depends on the restaurant. And so the money that Zero Waste has offered is basically 50 containers to get them started. So each individual restaurant is going to, over the course of a couple months, kind of get into that place where they know this is a good amount to have. And so, for example, Alchemist Jam, they went through almost half their containers in day one. Which was amazing. Their customers were so excited about it. And it was like, in the first 10 minutes, they'd gone through all 4 of her customers in the first 10 minutes, did it, and it was so cool. Yeah, they'll need to, it takes some time before they
Figure it
know.
out.
But so Alchemist Jam, within 3 days, decided I need to get some more. So she bought her own to add to that inventory. Local Flow actually did the same thing. And they kind of, like I said, get into that groove, and it is going to be different for everybody. The loss is an interesting piece because it's not really much of a loss if a customer doesn't return it. Now, we're going for reuse here, so please remember that. But if the restaurant, in order to get the containers, they are actually leasing the containers. They're not buying the containers, they're leasing them for $5 each. So this is just a transfer of $5 from one party to another. So if a customer comes in and gives the $5, then they have paid the restaurant what they paid to get the container in the first place. If they don't return it, the restaurant really isn't out anything, but they would have to buy another container. And that's the piece that actually is the problem, because the whole point of this is not single use, so we don't want customers to take it and then never return it. But it isn't really a huge loss in the financial sense. It'd be more of a never-ending loss, yeah.
I'll ask the other part, what is the life cycle of the Forever Ware? And when it does get all beaten up and damaged, what happens to it?
Yeah, I mean,
How do you beat up and damage it?
they're pretty hefty. She
Yeah.
has had restaurants using them for 5 years,
Ooh,
and they're still going strong.
okay.
So, if that gives any indication, yeah, she hasn't had any issues at this point yet. So, yeah.
What, I don't know how to ask this question. How does a restaurant determine what they need? Because obviously the cups are for coffee and tea and beverages, but the others are clearly different sizes, so,
Yeah.
you know, how does a restaurant decide what their mix of this is?
Yeah, they kind of have to guess a little bit, but it's based on what foods, the most common foods that are gonna be used for takeout or that customers are using for leftovers. They know what containers they're going through.
Right.
So they have that knowledge and inventory and whatnot, so they can use that to
Okay,
kind of give
yeah.
them some knowledge, but, you know, that's not to say that like, that same percentage is gonna be
Right,
using
right.
this.
And they're
right?
gonna know what they purchased for takeout containers anyway,
That's
Yeah.
that are
right.
going out, so they're gonna have that history.
Yeah, so it's nice for them to start slow and to still have that hybrid system too,
Sure.
where they're still using the single use, and hopefully, you know, we kind of move away and away and away from that. But initially, you kind of have to figure out how many and which ones
And
and
Brynn and her
whatnot.
group have done incredible customer service. I mean, that's what they've done, is come to these restaurants and massage them and work with them and, you know, work on
Right,
portions of the
right.
food and which ones to be best. And then be assured that, like some other programs that have run through, we've well-intentioned, but then they sort of
Yeah.
fall off because the equipment disappears or we disappear. That's not happening this time. We're
Yeah.
fully invested in this so that when the restaurants have a question or don't, you know, all the cups end up over here in one restaurant, someone's ordered them all, and someone's gonna go over and like, hey, we need some cups over at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And so there'll be, you know, people who will be consulting through Zero Waste McMinnville to make sure that this project really sustains itself and gets moving.
Yeah.
And the owner, CEO of Forever Ware, it's a one-woman owned company in the Midwest. It's amazing. And she does consultations with the restaurants too and helps them figure out
Okay.
which containers and how many, and she has a pretty good idea of where they should start, so
Good.
that's helpful too, yeah.
Does Forever Ware also do utensils and metal straws? as
She
well?
doesn't,
Yeah, what about the utensils? Because you mentioned utensils.
yeah,
I'm just,
yeah.
what about that?
That's in the back of my mind for sure. There is I guess it's a campaign. It's called Skip the Stuff. Skip campaign. And it's basically asking restaurants, if you're ordering takeout, to skip the extra stuff. So skip straws, skip utensils.
Right.
Because if you're taking it home, you've got all that stuff. And
Right.
but they throw in, you know, all those things. So that's a first option. Ask them just not to put it in there. But yeah, there's a ways to go for that for sure. Yeah.
So speaking of takeout, I got some takeout today. I won't say what restaurant here in town, and I'm pleased to announce that they went from styrofoam, but they used a plastic container, and I was like, oh, okay, they made the first step, whatever. And part of my comment is that I'm not sure what I took out would fit in one of those.
Yeah. So this
That,
that is the current problem with some restaurants and why some are waiting. So on list of priorities with Forever Ware is to add another container
Yeah.
that is wider base. And there are some issues with that, and so she is working on some new containers that will be suitable and suitable across the board as well. So fingers crossed that comes sooner rather than later. We can
She
get.
should talk to restaurants that have takeout
Yeah.
and ask them,
Yeah.
you know, the size, cause you look at the clamshell things, you know, they're probably what, 8 inches square?
Yeah.
There's no way one of those.
Yeah, and that is absolutely what she is missing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what she needs to make it really
so I know at this point it's pretty high up on her priority list, but it's just not happening yet, so. But I'm gonna keep pushing for it.
Well, yeah, if she wants it to be really, really successful, there needs to be one more larger container
Yeah.
to be right there.
Yeah, and so she chose the three most, what she said is the most common, but
Mhm.
maybe, like I said, she's in the Midwest, so maybe she has a different, I don't know, type of restaurant that's there. I don't know. So that's how she gathered her information, but I know that's needed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a personal thing I'd like to say for reuse and whatever. I don't home can, and I don't know why I have these things. I found them in a closet. I have 6 wide mouth jars, canning jars, with the screw bands and lids. If you personally do home canning, or you know someone that does, please take these off my hands.
Right?
I keep trying, and I haven't hit anybody that does home canning. My mom did, but, you know, she's been gone for a long time, in other words, I give them to her, so,
So, if you go to, take some of those with you and, you know, have the tear rate on it, because you can then use those to fill up and store your things like your rice and just.
There is that,
Rather than
yes.
a plastic bag of Winco and do that.
that, you're right, sir, yeah, I could take them to Winco and fill with some of those.
How does that work at Winco, when you take a jar? How do you
Okay, well,
eliminate
what
that?
Yeah, how do you eliminate the
The weight of
the
So-
weight?
So what I do is I take paper bags that I already have numbered, and then I have my one plastic Talente jar that I use for my measuring things, so then I can figure out how much I wanna put into so if I'm gonna do, if I have say a quart jar that I keep rice in, you know, I know that that's gonna be 2 Talente jars worth, and so I can fill up the bag, it's already numbered, and do it, so.
Oh, okay, so you
I'm
can-
still reusing my one plastic ugly thing, but
Yeah,
but
but I
the
think,
paper bags work really good, because you can then,
okay, but somebody said about, you can stop at the cash register and get it pre.
Yeah, and then Harvest Fresh, you can go in
Yeah.
and weigh your container.
but they have paper bags there, they usually use plastic bags there, but they don't
Yeah, but
mind
they
if you do a
But I
paper
like
bag.
that
You
idea.
use the paper, yeah,
Get it
they'll just weigh
pre-weighed.
your container and then they'll
Yep.
take it off.
I like that, get it pre-weighed before
Yeah.
weighing, yeah. But still, these are great ideas, but if somebody would like to take them, I'd be happy to give them up.
Okay,
Okay,
I have a pantry full of those with all of my bulk items that I fill. Is that what
Yeah.
you're wanting me to say?
Yeah, well, I was on here to expand on that, because, yeah, Harvest Fresh does a fantastic job of.
Yeah.
And if you haven't weighed it beforehand, we just do it, we weigh it at home, we've just got like a little $25 scale, but
$10, super cheap.
even better.
And then so you
Yeah.
tell them,
And so you write your
Yeah.
or you write your tear on it, and then you go and fill it up, even if it's half full or whatnot, you can still, okay, I added this much to it, and so they weigh it right there, and then give you your price, and it works out really
It's
well.
amazing. I am known there for this, so. Did you have a question?
I have one more question,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you may not be in a position to answer part of the question.
Okay.
You mentioned the DEQ funding, is that Oregon DEQ?
Yes.
Okay, so that funding may still be available, and it hasn't been shut down.
so the DEQ, did receive huge amounts of money from the federal government, and that was clawed back. So they lost that money for some really interesting projects. However, DEQ, has committed to spending the state dollars on projects, so Oregon's gonna be okay.
Okay.
And so they have rotating, state fund that you apply for projects such as this.
So my second part of my question,
Yeah,
Brynn
one of
or
us.
Ramsey,
I'm sorry.
did we apply for funding
We
through
did.
DEQ for this?
We did, we were not accepted.
what?
Well, I mean, it was this?
Yeah, it was this one, and it's okay, because it went to another reuse program, so I'm happy for that, and we're making it happen here, so.
Your heart is so big.
Well, so, the way the programs work is, they'd like to distribute them, and another worthy organization in this town received the grant. And so, that was really great, and so it's rotating, you just keep applying, and eventually, you know, the wheel goes around and you get money. So we were
Would
just,
you apply again?
oh yeah, we'll definitely keep applying,
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
yeah, so.
So I'm just like a shock.
Certainly worth it. And so you should be Professional public speaker, you're so good.
Yes.
Good job.
Come take a card or a
Yeah.
few cards for restaurants and leave them. They want to know. They need to know that you guys care. So,
Thank you.
and then this is the plastic project brochure. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for
No,
coming.
thank you.